Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, securities analyst, and advisor, Morty Davis is a Wall Street legend. In addition, Mr. Davis is an outstanding economist and highly articulate, incisive, and very entertaining political analyst and strategist. He's Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical economic and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the news making the headlines is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Hello again. It's great to be back with you, my favorite cohorts. You are so helpful, such a major part of the success of this podcast. Thank you all for your comments, even when they're especially critical, and I initially react poorly to your suggestions. I find that most of them are brilliant and well thought out and help me to grow in my understanding of events. So thank you all and keep up the good work. And now, without further ado, let's get started on this week's session. As always, I need to apologize up front because by its nature, we discuss the breaking news, the exciting news of the week, and that tends to be depressing, tragic, all bad news. Good news doesn't make the headlines, never breaks into the programs the networks were listening to or the cable. It's only the tragic events, shootings of children in class and their teachers, little children, young children. Fires, floods,
Wars.
Everything terrible. So, by its nature, it's likely, inevitably, to have a depressing effect on the participants, you and me, and anybody covering these events. So again, I have to apologize up front by the nature of the podcast, since it deals with breaking news, all of which is so depressing. And that's why I have a picture of the, if you have the screen in front of you, with my latest book, Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. This is meant to help you overcome any depression because it's based on the years and years of brilliant insights I gathered from the Bible, from ministers, rabbis, priests, just as it helps me initially. I used to be depressed by unfolding events in life, and I ran into a book by a very brilliant bishop, Catholic bishop, who headed a major Catholic church in Midtown Manhattan. So it changed my life. The name of the book was The Power of Positive Thinking. Bishop Sheehan, the author of that book, was presented the approach of always seeing any unfolding event, no matter how initially it seems almost hopeless and terrible. If you thought about it in a positive way and learned something from it, it could add to your wisdom and to your happiness, or at least contentment in life, because a positive approach, a positive thought leads to positive outcome. And since Bishop Sheehan's positive thinking, power of positive thinking, changed my life and made me a more content, happier person ever since, I decided it was certainly worth conveying that knowledge to my family, my kids, all my loved ones, my friends, my neighbors, my fellow Americans, and my fellow human beings. So this book in front of you is 12 years, or it started as 12 years effort, and I was still working on it till one day my daughter picked it up and read my 12 years of work and said, "Dad, it's terrific. Why don't you publish it?" And I said, I still am gathering so much vital, impressive suggestions to make life happier, not happier in the sense that we get happy from addictive drugs or 12 beers or a bottle of vodka, but from an attitude of positive thinking, because positive thinking leads to positive outcomes and positive feelings, and therefore happiness and real happiness and contentment. So without further ado, let's get on with the...
Tell them about the guarantee.
Okay. Thank you. I have a terrific guest tonight again, Len Carter, a brilliant accomplished genius who graduated from the best universities with a degree in engineering, electrical engineering. First from one of the best Ivy League schools, Cornell, where he graduated at the top of his class. Then from Harvard Business School, the best business school in the world, where I graduated from with honors, and where Len Carter graduated from with honors, as he did from Cornell with honors, and then finally where he graduated from the best university that turned out more billionaires and successful techies that funded some of the best, most advanced apps like Google and Apple, all of the top that we look to for guidance every single day. So Leonard graduated from Stanford University in San Francisco. So I'm delighted that I could induce Len to join us once again. He's looked for by major corporations and governments throughout the world for advice, and we're privileged to have him as our guest tonight. Leonard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Morty. Good to be here.
He's a real genius. I enjoy him, and I think you will, and get great benefits from him, his insights. So without further ado, let's get on to this week's depressing news. Depressing by virtue of the nature of the news, which to make the headlines always has to be shocking and depressing, and little kids being shot, killed, and their teachers being shot and killed without any provocation, enough to depress and ensure that we will be depressed by the news, by the announcements, by the breaking news of shootings of innocent people throughout the country, of wars, of fires and floods and everything terrible in the world. So, without further ado, let's get on to the news of the week, and the inevitably depressing news.
Thank you, Morty. So, you mentioned that the news depresses people, but, this week we've seen, to some people, they were dancing in the streets when the news broke. So sometimes one man's depressing news is another man's euphoria, I guess. And by that, I'm talking about the big news of the week, which is the outbreak of the war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. Iraq was...
That was only exciting news and uplifting news because it overcame the horrendous earlier news or occurrences of the horrendous events that were occurring throughout the world from the behavior of Iran.
Right.
And its behavior and its horrendous attacks on the United States and other innocent societies.
So let's start with the big picture, because and let's try to break it apart into different pieces, because there's a lot of debate going on, and sometimes the debates get mired together in terms of, was this a good idea versus was it done properly in terms of, the process that the country has to going to battle. So let's put aside, for now, we'll talk about that secondly, but for now, put aside, was the process proper in terms of consulting Congress, that kind of thing. And let's just first talk about big picture. Was this a good idea, for the United States and for the people of the country of America.
In my view, it was over way past the time it should have been done, because Iran has been attacking the United States and doing horrendous things to our people, our military. It's long overdue. We were too passive, and I was delighted to see Trump take that action and attack the evil empire of Iran and bring an end to that kind of horrendous evil behavior.
Do you think that this will do that?
It's definitely a great first step. I hope it does. But it's long overdue because we've been passive. We let a country that should not be able to do that to a powerful nation like the United States and get away with it. All of the things we tried, sanctions and everything else, were a waste of time because they continued pursuing the pursuit of an a bomb, and with the intent of using it to destroy its enemy, the great Satan, the United States, and the little Satan, Israel, and led to finally the president, fed up with just being passive. The sanctions didn't work, nothing worked, warnings didn't work, and struck out against Iran with military action.
So let's talk about process for a moment, because, under Article 1 of the Constitution, the president is the commander-in-chief,
right,
and commands the military. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, and, the founders intentionally split these military versus Article 2 of the Constitution, which provides Congress the sole power to declare war.
Right.
So they didn't want one person to have that ability. On the other hand, Congress is a body of many hundreds of people, different opinions, and debate and discussion can take a while. And sometimes you need to act quickly if there's imminent danger. And so there's always been this tension between, the powers of the commander-in-chief versus the powers of the legislative branch, Congress. So, and that really came to light in the late 60s and early 70s with Vietnam, where we were in a protracted quagmire for many years. Congress never declared war. In fact, the last time Congress declared war was World War II. And we've had, many conflicts and wars since then. So in the early 70s, the Congress passed the War Powers Act, which gives the president 60 days to deploy troops, after which Congress has to vote on whether to continue that or not. This way, it gives the president the flexibility to act quickly in the case where it requires quick action, but it can't allow for long-term conflicts, wars, without congressional approval, which was the intention of the founders when they wrote the Constitution. So how do you see, this fitting in terms of, this debate on whether if this is a war, then why didn't Congress have the opportunity to declare war, since only Congress can do that? Or was it a case where there's imminent danger and therefore the president is within his rights to, use force? What's your take?
Well, the president and the U.S. has tried every way possible to avoid entering a war or launching a war. They put sanctions on. They everything short of attacking Iran, and nothing served to end their behavior to pursue the development, the prerequisite to creating an atom bomb against the entity, the great Satan, or of the United States, or the little Satan of Israel, without any impact at all. We used sanctions. We used all kind of behavior.
But isn't that then Congress's fault for not, if there was, for 47 years since the 1979 Iranian Revolution, when we first took over the embassy and held hostages for 444 days, and then there was bombings of Lebanon, and there were other roadside bombings. Just the list goes on and on and on for 47 years. So while I would agree with you that there's been an historical preponderance of rationale for this action, is that notwithstanding that, isn't it still Congress's constitutional right to declare war? I mean, if after 47 years enough is enough, then shouldn't it have been Congress to say that enough is enough, and then Congress declare war, as opposed to the president taking unilateral action because he thinks enough is enough? Not that I'm disagreeing. I think enough is enough. It's just procedurally, was that the right way to go? I mean, I guess we'll see, because...
With all due respect to the president, he tried everything. He's given Iran every opportunity, and he tried every action that might discourage their hostile behavior, including sanctions and endless negotiation. And at the end of the day, no matter what he tried, they continued to pursue this horrible pursuit of a destructive...
Now, some people say this isn't a war. It's airstrikes. Strikes aren't a war. So do you, and therefore, if it's not a war, then Congress doesn't have to, there's no constitutional issue of declaring war. Do you buy that argument, where it's not a war, it's just airstrikes?
I believe that the President Trump had no choice. He kept negotiations open. He tried various punishments or potential punishments like sanctions and other behavior before he pursued this route. And no matter what he did, they wouldn't stop. Even the prior bombing of the effort by the United States and Israel did not stop them from, once that ended, from pursuing this. So he gave them every opportunity, and going to Congress, while you're right, that's what the Constitution calls for. It's way too slow and doesn't.
But it's still the Constitution.
Didn't prove effective.
Whether it's slow or not, it's still the Constitution.
Well, if you want to get something done, you got to get it. You got to do it. Otherwise,
I don't disagree that it was the right thing to do, and if I were a congressman, I would vote to do it. It's just as much as we may think, well, Congress couldn't do it, so the president had to do it. I mean, Constitution is the Constitution, whether you like it or not. But anyway, so let's talk about where do you think this goes? Because
he gave Iran multiple opportunities, extensive negotiation, and every possible incentive or disincentive to stop that pursuit.
So now that it's sort of the War Powers Act trigger, the 60 days is ticking, we've heard timing, the president has said 4 to 6 weeks, or, he thinks it'll be, do you think which would be within the window of the War Powers Act? Because if we get to 60 days, then we could have an issue, because the Congress will vote, and they, at some point they're going to need funding for this conflict, and Congress is the only, entity to authorize funding. So they're going to have, and so if it's not resolved in 60 days, it's going to have to come to Congress for some form of approval, if you will, if nothing, to get funding to keep going. So do you see it ending within that period, and
to be fair,
be out, and there won't be an issue of the vote in 60 days?
To
or
be
do you
fair
see that coming to a head?
To be fair to the president, to Trump, he tried everything. He tried with Israel bombing, a mass bombing of that effort of Iran to develop an atom bomb. He negotiated in good faith for weeks, warning them unless they stopped that pursuit, which we told them we could not live with, we could not tolerate. They would not stop. I don't know what he could do otherwise.
So go
to Congress is like,
so
he's dealing with a bureaucracy.
So where do you think
forever?
We'll be in 60 days? Because in 60 days there will be a vote. There has to be a vote, because that's what the War Powers Act says. So do you see it wrapping up within that 60 days, and the troops? I mean, the assets will be out of the arena, in which case it's a moot point.
Well,
or do you see it going to a vote in 60 days?
Hopefully,
to Congress.
It would end their behavior. That is, the behavior of the Iranians,
right? So
and get them to stop. But having tried everything, including direct bombing, and then the extensive negotiations and incentives to stop.
So do you
including
do you think it's going to work?
Nothing worked.
So they're going to, the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, was killed.
Good.
There will, they're working on a replacement. There is a process in Iran where they have different bodies to select a new supreme leader. Do you think that in that process, the new supreme leader and then the replacement of the other 50 people that were killed in the first day strikes will have a different view, and will say, okay, we'll concede to Trump's 3 demands, which were no ballistic missiles, no further funding of terrorism of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, and then finally no nuclear program.
Well,
so do you think that the new regime selected by this process within Iran will concede to those three terms, or will we just have to keep going, to knock them out until the next group finally says, okay?
well, Trump gave them multiple opportunities to end that pursuit, and extensive time and ongoing negotiations,
Right.
and they would not respond.
Right. But what do you think will happen with the next group, the next supreme leader, right? Because Ayatollah was killed, so now there will be a new supreme leader. Do you think that person will be any different?
Well, Trump made it clear that he would not tolerate
Right.
that behavior.
Right.
So the new person,
Right.
if he pursues the same approach, will get the same result.
Do you think the new person will pursue the same? I know if he does, then Trump's going to want to keep up the attack. But do you think he will? Do you think that the next supreme leader will learn a lesson and then?
If he doesn't, then Trump will have achieved what he wants to achieve. They will end their pursuit of seeking the prerequisite.
Right. No terrorism, no ballistic missiles, and no nuclear weapons. So,
yeah, what do you call it? The wherewithal.
Yeah.
To make it.
So
if he pursues it, we'll be back at square one, and Trump will attack him likewise.
So do you think that you can ever get to a point where the replacement regime, like let's say the next regime is just the same as the last one, keeps, doesn't surrender, doesn't concede, continues to fight, and then we say that's not what we want, and then we continue this affront. Do you think that you can ever get to the point of what you want just by air attacks?
Yeah, if it makes it clear that if they don't stop, it'll keep on.
We'll keep on
attacked.
Right, but will that stop them? I mean, do you think that air attacks without say troops in the country is enough to get whatever new government comes in to do what we want?
If it hurts enough, yes. In other words, if it impacts everything in their life, and they continue, they will stop. Otherwise, whoever comes in after will have suffered the same consequences. So yes, it could be successful
without having to bring soldiers into the country.
Well, you don't necessarily have to put soldiers
That's
there.
what I'm asking.
No.
Do you think you can do it without soldiers?
Yes.
Okay.
With planes and
I mean,
with the cooperation.
Some people think yes, some people think no.
With the cooperation of Israel, they can do that.
I mean, it's hard. It is hard because you have hundreds of thousands of the ICG, the Revolutionary Guard.
Right.
That's a very big, loyal army to and it's right now they're they're selecting the next supreme leader over Zoom. They're having a virtual meeting because they don't want to all come together again because they know they'll be destroyed. So that's a problem. If you have a spread out, government, it's hard to really take them out, and if you have hundreds of thousands of army and police and troops putting down protesters and, I don't know. I'm not convinced that air assaults alone can do it.
You're right. But since he's tried every other method, including the prior massive bombing of their effort to build an atom bomb along with Israel. They attacked vehemently. And then after all that, they still pursued it. And no matter what he did, he offered them all kind of incentives and potential punishment, including sanctions. Nothing else worked. So I don't know that Trump had any other options. In other words, he had to say, either you stop this effort or we're going to attack you. And he made it clear to them. And he took his time. And he used other methods like sanctions. But there was no let up in their determination, their fanatic pursuit of this goal that the United States or Israel could tolerate.
And what do you say to people, to the MAGA base? There are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who say this is not America first. We shouldn't be in foreign wars. We should be, focusing on America and not getting into any overseas conflicts.
But his behavior, Trump's behavior, was for the benefit of the United States. It's been a generation or more that this entity, this country, Iran, has been attacking the United States in so many different ways without any consequences. So finally he put his foot down and said, we'll give you a chance to swear to cease this pursuit, or we're going to come after you. And since there's nothing that could stop them, even extensive bombing that they in Israel, that the U.S. and Israel enacted against them, didn't change anything. I don't know that Trump, having given them every option and using every potential punishment, including sanctions, there was no way that he could get them to do the one thing that we asked.
So we're about out of time. Let me just ask one last question.
Yes.
So a lot of times with their either military actions or other foreign policy actions, there's unintended consequences. What do you think will be any of the, if any, unintended consequences of this action?
Well, there are many possibilities, but if Trump sticks to his guns and says, if you don't stop this pursuit, we're going to continue attacking you, and you're going to pay an unacceptable, sustainable behavior, then I think he'll get the reaction he wants, and that's what he's done. Mm-hmm. And he can't wait for Congress, which is kind of a bureaucracy. It would take him weeks and even months to act. So given that he gave Iran every opportunity to react, to eliminate the sanctions, to do whatever they can, even after the bombing and demonstrating how serious the United States was about ending that behavior, they would not stop. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he had any choice.
Okay.
And bringing the Congress into it was kind of hopeless in terms of the rate at which they move.
Right. All right.
Takes weeks and months.
I thank you for an interesting discussion, as always. We'll have plenty to talk about, I'm sure, in the coming weeks and next week and beyond. So,
thank you, Leonard Carter. It's always great to have you on. I appreciate it. And thank you to my listeners who I love. You are terrific. You make the program work. You are my cohorts. Your notes to me, even your criticism, sometimes hurt. But when I think about them, you have good points, and it broadens my wisdom and my concept and broadens my understanding of the total. I am grateful for you, and I love you, and I look forward to being with you every Wednesday at 6:30. Thank you. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful every day of your life, you and all your loved ones. And again, every day should be better than the day before, perpetually, unto eternity. God bless you. I love you. And I look forward to being with you again a week from tonight, next Wednesday at 6:30.
amen.
Have a great week, you and all your loved ones. Bye.